Hello humans, welcome back to Your Thoughts Are Valid and I hope you all are doing great. So in today's video, we are going to learn about neurotransmitters. So let's understand what are neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are your body's chemical messengers. They carry messages from one nerve cell across a space to the next nerve, muscle or gland cell. These messages help you move your limbs, feel sensation, keep your heart beating, and take in and respond to all information your body receives from other internal parts of your body and your environment. Chemical messengers that send information between neurons by crossing synapses. Chemicals found in synaptic vesicles that, when released, has an effect on next cell. Okay, so neurotransmitters are your body's chemical messengers. Okay, these are basically chemicals. They help in carrying messages from one nerve cell to another, like between neurons. They carry messages. These message help you, move your limbs. Basically, react to the stimuli. These are the chemical messengers that send information between neurons by crossing synapse. And what is synapse, that we will learn, that I will show you. Synapse is basically the gap, okay, the gap between two neurons. That is known as like the axon. What do we call it as axon ending, right? So like one neuron, so it is the distance between the end of one neuron and the starting of other neuron. Okay, so axon ending and dendrites. So the gap between those two is known as synapse. So these neurotransmitters are get released in those spaces. We will understand it here. Okay, so where are neurotransmitters located? So these are located in a part of neuron which we call as axon terminal. Okay, what do we call it as? Axon terminal. So this yellow part, this whole yellow part is called as axon terminal. So when we will study about neuron, there we will see the whole structure of neuron, and there you will come to know what is axon terminal. Like, here you can see axon terminal, but just the axon terminal, zoomed in part of axon terminal. But axon terminal is a part of neuron itself. Okay, so they are stored within thin walled sacs called synaptic vesicles. Okay, so inside this axon terminal, there are thin walled sacs called synaptic vesicles. You can see synaptic vesicles, right? The circles inside the axon terminal. Those are synaptic vesicles, okay? And each vesicle can contain thousands of neurotransmitter molecules. Okay, so each vesicle has thousands of neurotransmitter molecules. As you can see, there are small molecules inside these synaptic vesicles, and these are called as neurotransmitters. Okay, so here you can see, okay, wait a minute. Let me annotate. Okay, so suppose here you get the signal, as you said, here's the stimuli. Okay, so what will happen? Here is dopamine receptor. Here is dopamine. This is synaptic cleft. Okay, this is synaptic cleft. Then this is synaptic vesicle. So, when the sensation is received by the, when suppose you touch a um, hot kettle. Okay, you suppose you touch the hot kettle, so what will happen at that time? Neurotransmitters will get released. So here dopamine is getting released. No, dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. So that will get released, and where it will get released? It will get released in the synaptic cleft. Okay, so this is where the neurotransmitters are located. Moving on, how does neurotransmitters work? Basically, what is neurotransmission? So neurons work as a sort of messaging system. Okay, they have electrical signals that get passed along their axon, which is a thin cable that connects the main part of the cell to other neurons. Once the electrical signal reaches the synapse, a tiny gap at the end of the axon, it is then converted into a chemical signal. Okay, so what they are saying that neurons basically work as messaging system together. They have electrical signals which get passed along their axon, which is like a thin cable that connects the main part of the cell to other neurons. So once the electrical signal reaches the synapse, then the tiny gap at the end of the axon. Synapse is the tiny gap at the end of the axon. Okay, so once the electrical signal reaches that synapse, it is then converted into a chemical signal. So it was electrical signal when it was traveling in the neuron itself, within the neuron, but as soon as it reaches the synapse, it gets converted into chemical signal, and then neurotransmitter gets released. This chemical signal is released from the neuron in a vesicle or sac through the synapse, becoming a neurotransmitter and transporting the signal to the receiving neuron. This prompts the receiver to respond in a specific way so that it can interpret the message being sent. Okay, so like the chemical signal is released from neuron in vesicle. Okay, so the chemical signal where it get released in the neuron in vesicle, in those vesicles we studied about, or we also call them as sac. So this happens through a synapse. Okay, and then it becomes becoming a neurotransmitter, and then what that neurotransmitter does is that it transports the signal to the receiving neuron. And what happens after this, so this prompts the receiver to respond in a specific way so that it can interpret the message being sent. Receptors are designed to regulate the release of neurotransmitter or receive the signal being sent. Receptors are located between neurons and allow for the exchange of information to occur. And this process is known as neurotransmission. Okay. So there are receptors located between neurons, and they allow for the exchange of information. And this whole process is known as neurotransmission. So there is a YouTube short which I created to, describe neurotransmission. So it has animated video in it. I will attach the link to it in the description below. So if you have to understand what exactly neurotransmission is, if you want to understand it in video format, basically in animated video format, then you can refer to that video. So what are the actions performed by the neurotransmitters? So two type of actions can be performed, excitatory or inhibitory. What are excitatory neurotransmitters? So they basically excite the neuron and cause it to fire off the message, meaning the message continues to be passed along to the next cell. And what are the examples of excitatory neurotransmitter? Glutamate, epinephrine, norepinephrine. What are inhibitory neurotransmitters? So these block or prevent chemical message from being passed along any further. For example, GABA, serotonin. Okay, so now let's understand how many different type of neurotransmitters are there. So scientists know of at least 100 neurotransmitters, and also they believe that there are many neurotransmitters which are not yet discovered, and they can be grouped into types based on their chemical nature. Some of the better known categories and neurotransmitter examples and their functions include, so you can divide it in three main categories: amino acid neurotransmitter, which includes the example of glutamate, GABA. Then monoamines neurotransmitter contains serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Then peptide neurotransmitter, which is the example is endorphin here. Okay, so adrenaline. Adrenaline is known as fight or flight neurotransmitter. Noradrenaline is known as concentration neurotransmitter. Dopamine is known as pleasure neurotransmitter. Serotonin is known as mood neurotransmitter. GABA is known as calming neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine is known as learning neurotransmitter. Glutamate is known as memory neurotransmitter, and endorphins are known as euphoria neurotransmitter. Moving on, amino acid neurotransmitter. So let's understand what amino acids are. So amino acids are small building blocks that are essential for the body to function properly. So basically, these are the basic units that combine to form protein. So it like basic unit of protein, and these are crucial for various functions in body like muscle development, enzyme production, cell structure. How can you compare? What is like analogy through which you can understand amino acid. So understand that amino acids are alphabets and proteins are words that when we combine alphabets we get words. So just like when we combine amino acids we get different type of proteins. So there are different types of amino acids and each has a unique structure and function. Some amino acids are used by the body to make specific chemicals called neurotransmitters, which help nerve cells or neurons in the brain communicate with each other. Moving on, amino acid neurotransmitter. So let's understand. So amino acid neurotransmitter, we need to learn glutamate and gamma amino butyric acid. So let's understand what is the function of glutamate. So this is the most common excitatory neurotransmitter of your nervous system and also most abundant. It plays key role in cognitive functions like thinking, learning, memory. Imbalances in glutamate levels are associated with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, seizures. Then GABA. GABA is like the most common inhibitory neurotransmitter of your nervous system, and it regulates brain activity to prevent problems in areas of anxiety, irritability, concentration, sleep, seizures, and depression. Then there are monoamines. So monoamines are a specific group of chemicals derived from amino acids and they play important role in nervous system and other parts of the body. The term monoamine refers to their chemical structure which includes a single amine group attached to an aromatic ring. Monoamines can act as chemical messengers in the brain where they help transmit signals between nerve cells, neurons. Some of the most well-known monoamines are dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and serotonin. Each of these monoamines has a specific function in the brain, such as regulating mood, attention, arousal, and other important processes. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now let's see function of these monoamine neurotransmitters. So first is serotonin. So serotonin is both excitatory and inhibitory in nature. It helps regulate mood, sleep patterns, sexuality, anxiety, appetite, pain. Diseases associated with serotonin imbalance include seasonal affective disorder, anxiety, depression, fibromyalgia, and chronic pain. Medications that regulate serotonin and treat these disorders include selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor and serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. Okay, then there is dopamine. It plays role in your body's reward system, like feeling pleasure, achieving heightened arousal, and learning. It also helps with focus, concentration, memory, sleep, mood, motivation. Diseases associated with dysfunctions of dopamine system include Parkinson disease, schizophrenia, bipolar, restless leg syndrome, and ADHD. Epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine, these are responsible for your body's so-called fight or flight response to fear and stress. These neurotransmitters stimulate your body's response by increasing your heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, blood sugar, and blood flow to your muscles, as well as heighten attention and focus to allow you to act or react to different stressors. Too much epinephrine can lead to high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and other health problems. As a drug, epinephrine is used to treat anaphylaxis, asthma attacks, cardiac arrest, and severe infections. Then norepinephrine, also called as noradrenaline, it increases blood pressure and heart rate. It's most widely known for its effects on alertness, arousal, decision making, attention, and focus. Many medications aim to increase norepinephrine level to improve focus or concentration, to treat ADHD, or to modulate norepinephrine to improve depression symptoms. Okay. So these are some monoamine neurotransmitters. Then peptide neurotransmitter, these are polymers or chains of amino acids. Okay. So endorphin is the example. Endorphins are inhibitory neural regulators and are your body's natural pain reliever. They play a role in our perception of pain. Release of endorphins reduce pain as well as cause feel good feelings. Low level of endorphins may play a role in fibromyalgia and some types of headaches. Then there is another neurotransmitter, which is acetylcholine. So this excitatory neurotransmitter does a number of functions in your central nervous system and in your peripheral nervous system. It is released by most neurons in autonomic nervous system, regulating heart rate, blood pressure, gut motility. It plays a role in muscle contraction, memory, motivation, sexual desires, sleep, and learning. Imbalances in acetylcholine levels are linked with health issues including Alzheimer's, seizure, and muscle spasms. So these are some of like we studied about peptide neurotransmitter, which is endorphin, and then acetylcholine. So let's see the functions again of all the neurotransmitters. So acetylcholine, movement control, thinking, comprehending, glutamate, memory, GABA, eating, sleeping, aggression, dopamine, movement control, attention, pleasure, and reward feeling, serotonin, eating, sleeping, mood, pain, depression, coping with stress, endorphins, pain suppression, pleasurable feelings, and appetite. Then key neurotransmitters and their main function once again, so that you can remember all the functions and all the neurotransmitters. So adrenaline, it is known as fight or flight. This is very common. I really don't think you need any trick to remember this because you have studied this since you were in class 8th or 9th. So this is very common that adrenaline or epinephrine is known as fight or flight, and it is produced in stressful situations, and whatever it how it affects the body, like increases heart rate and blood flow and heightened awareness, all these things. Then noradrenaline or norepinephrine. So this is important for concentration. Okay, this is important for concentration. It affects attention and responding actions in the brain. It contracts blood vessels, increasing blood flow. Okay, so noradrenaline is related to concentration. Dopamine is related to pleasure. I think it is also very common. We all know that, it is known as happy hormone. So I think dopamine is common, and I think you really don't need trick to learn this one as well. But still, you can still remember like DP. You all know DP is display picture, like WhatsApp DP, Insta DP. So, like usually, DP, someone's DP or your own DP makes you happy. So in that way, you can remember it. DP, okay? DP, happy, okay? DP, you can also learn like Deepika Padukone. So, for many humans, for many people in India, she is like the favorite actress. So, like that, you can remember that Deepika Padukone makes you happy, or DP, any person's DP makes you happy. Seeing that person's DP makes you happy. So, dopamine is related to pleasure. So, D for dopamine, P for pleasure. So, DP. Then serotonin. Serotonin is for mood. Okay, serotonin is for mood. So you can remember it like MS, like in India, we usually call MSc, but when you go abroad, you see that, the course is usually called MS. Okay, so you can remember it like that, which in which subject you are doing your MS, that controls your mood. if you are doing MS in subject which you do not like, then there is very high probability that you will be in sad mood most of the time, or irritable mode. And if you are doing masters in some, if you are doing MS in some course which you really like, then your mood would be good. So serotonin is related to mood. So MS, mood, M for mood, S for serotonin. Then GABA is for calming. GABA, GABA has calming reaction. GABA calming. CG, or or mm, you can learn it like CG itself. I mean, nowadays we usually ask how much CG did you get in college. Instead of CGPA, we usually ask the short form CG. So, just remember, like, your CG makes you calm because you have a good CG. Okay. So, CG, like that is one thing which you can proudly say, okay, I have a good CG. So, like that. Then acetylcholine is for learning. Acetylcholine is for learning. So you can remember it like LA. So LA is famous for, like usually the full form of LA, which will come to your mind after listening to the acronym LA, is Los Angeles. So how you can remember that is uh, learning. I really can't think of uh, any connection here, but I think just remember, like, just make something up in your mind, connect LA to something, you learn something there. There are I don't remember mm, vividly, but I think in Big Bang Theory, some connection is there to LA. I really don't remember now. So you can remember it like that, you learn something from LA, or there are many intelligent people who reside in LA, something like that. So just remember acetylcholine is related to learning. Then there is glutamate, which is related to memory. Glutamate is related to memory. You can remember it like MG, or GM. Like GM, like you usually send GM text to people. Either in your family groups, you see that your family keeps reminding you that it's finally it's morning, wake up. So GM can be for that, they remind you. So memory. Okay, so glutamate is related to memory, or you can, yeah, just remember GM. GM, is easier. So just remember GM. Either you have this in mind that you have to send GM text to someone is special, or you can just remember that you get a lot of GM text in your family groups. And even if you don't be sad. You definitely know someone who is getting those GM text and is not really happy about it. So yeah, you can relate to GM trick in that way. Then there is endorphin. Endorphin is related to euphoria. Euphoria means feeling good, uh, pleasure, the feeling of pleasure and all those things. Then this is endorphin. Endorphins are for euphoria. So just remember EE, endorphin, and then euphoria. E for endorphin, E for euphoria. So I think it is pretty much clear to you. If you still have difficulty in remembering, just make a sticky notes and paste it in your room, or at whatever place you think you look most of the time, or maybe while sleeping, before sleeping. So just paste it there and just remember the functions. Just remember the keywords, okay? Like for adrenaline is fight or flight, for non-adrenaline is concentration, okay? So like that, just remember it. Then again, there are functions and what will happen if the neurotransmitter is too much or too little. So I think I have already covered all these things, but let's revise again so that you can remember some of these. Serotonin is for mood regulation, hunger, sleep, anger control, all these things. If it is too low, it can lead to depression, OCD, suicide, or irrational thoughts maybe. Dopamine, its function is movement, motor movement, alertness, attention, good feelings, aggression. If it is too much, it can cause Parkinson disease. If it is too little, it can cause schizophrenia or inability to feel love or affection. Then endorphins. Endorphins, the function is pain control, stress reduction, feeling of pleasure. If it is too much, endorphins are too much in the body, then it can potentially involve you in addiction. If these are too little, then sense of inadequacy you might have, then inability to combat pain. Acetylcholine, the function is to motor movement, learning, memory, REM sleep. If it is too much, it can cause Alzheimer and muscle disorder. GABA's function is reduced anxiety, reduced insomnia. If it is too little, it can cause seizure, insomnia, anxiety disorder, racing thoughts. Norepinephrine, fight or flight, controls alertness, arousal, elevates heart rate, circulation, respiration, mood elevation. If it is too much, it leads to decreased mood, racing heart, manic episodes or elevated blood pressure. If it is too little, lack of energy, lack of drive, reduced focus on goals. Then glutamate, its function is create link between neurons that form basis of learning, long-term memory. If it is too much, it leads to low-grade disease. If it is too little, it can cause overstimulation of brain, seizures. So again, we revise this again. So that was it for neurotransmitters. These, you usually get one or two questions every year from this chapter, and this is like a very small concept, very small topic. So I would recommend you to learn the functions of the neurotransmitters because there are just 8 neurotransmitters which are in our syllabus. So try to remember all these, try to make your own mnemonics, and remember all the functions. Diseases are also being asked, but yeah, that we will learn in detail in other videos. In basically, when we will be learning about disorders, we are going to understand it from the point of a neurobiological concept also. Like we will understand which hormonal or neurotransmitter disbalance is there when someone is suffering from that particular mental disorder. So yes, that is it for today's video. If you have any doubt, please do ask in the comment section, and thank you so much for watching.